Okay, here is a video for 7.5 practice A. Now I've done most of the work here on the paper already. Your job is to just copy it down, but I would watch the steps as they go through it. They're asking us to multiply rational expressions. To solve rational equations. Now we were multiplying them yesterday. Now we wanted to solve them. So I'm going to leave it here so we can look at the first 6, and then I'll move it up. Let's go right about there. Okay, so the first 6. So number 1, 2, and 3 are telling us to cross multiply. So we want to multiply our diagonals if possible to solve these. So if you look at the first one, it's telling us to, let's see, erase a little bit of this here. So you're going to multiply the 3 times the x plus minus 2, but you got to do 3 times x, and you got to do 3 times negative 2. So you would put in this in parentheses. You'd be distributing 3x and getting negative 6. So that's where I got this right over here, 3x minus 6. And then the other side, you're multiplying 1 times 4x, which is just 4x. And when you subtract 3x on both sides, you get x, and you get negative 6, and you're done. That one's actually pretty quick. And you can pause the video and catch up anytime. I'm just going to kind of move through them, and you can catch up. The second one here, you've got to do 2 distributive properties. So you've got to distribute the, what did we do? 6 times the x plus 2. So 6 times x and 6 times 2. That's how I got the 6x plus 12 up here. Okay, and then I got to take the 4 times the x and the 4 times the negative 2. That's the 4x minus the 8. And then I got to get the like terms together. So I like to keep my x positive. So I subtracted 4x on both sides. And you can see the 4x is canceled. Then I subtracted 12 on both sides, and the 12's canceled. When I combined the negative 8 and the negative 12, that gave me my negative 20 over here. And then when I combined the 6 minus the 4x, I got the 2x right there. And then dividing by 2 gives me negative 10. So that was number 2. 3 is a little bit more in depth. The first part's not bad. Negative 3 times x is negative 3x. Let me erase this so you can see it better. Okay, so negative 3 times the x minus 5. So negative 3 times x, we got negative 3x. Negative 3 times negative 5 is positive 15. So that's that one right there. So negative 3x plus 15. The second one has 2 parentheses. Whoops. Okay, that does not look good. So let's get rid of that. Oops, never mind. Okay, we'll get rid of that. Okay, so you've got 2 parentheses here. You've got the x minus 5 and the x plus 1. So I showed you how to do FOIL here. First terms is the the first terms. X times x is x squared. O is the outside terms. That's a negative 5 and an x. I is the inside term. That's a 1 and an x. That's just x. And 1 times negative 5 is negative 5. Combining these two gives you negative 4x. And then we're got a quadratic now, so now we got to get it equal to 0. So we're going to add the 3x so that the negative 3x will cancel. Add it to both sides and give me negative x. We're going to subtract 15 on both sides to give me negative 20 over here. Now, since it's quadratic and it's 3 terms, I'm thinking factoring is my best method. So if I can factor these, that'll make my life easier. So I put the negative 20 on top. I put the negative 1 on the bottom. 2 numbers that would multiply to give me negative 20. So they have to be different signs to be negative. And then 5 times 4 is 20. And then negative 1 here on the bottom. If you combine them, you get negative 1. So those are my 2 factors. Negative 5 is a factor and positive 4 is a factor. So now my 2 solutions would be whatever makes these 0. So what's going to make this parenthesis 0 is a 5, because 5 minus 5 is 0. So we're looking for this to become a 0. And we want to know what's going to make this equal 0. What's going to make this equal 0? And that's going to be a 5. That's going to be a negative 4. Now, the reason why we have to cross out this 5 is because you cannot have a 5 in the denominator of a fraction. If I was to put a 5 in here, 5 minus 5 is 0, and that's not allowed. So we have to get rid of that answer. It's a undefined answer. So this is the only one that works, negative 4. So that was a little more challenging because it had the FOIL in it and it was a quadratic. Number 4 is right over here. It's asking you that so far they've pitched 47 strikes out of their 61 pitches a pitcher has, but they want to be 80%. So how many more strikes in a row do they have to get to increase it to 80%? We're just going to cross multiply. 80 times 61 is 4880. 80 times x would be 80x. 100 times 47 is 4700. And then 100 times x is 100x. And I like to keep my x positive, so the bigger one is 100, so I'm going to subtract the smaller one. So that's going to leave me with 20x, because 100 minus 80. And that means I need to get rid of the 4700 on both sides. So if I subtract those, I get 180, and then dividing by the 20 gives me 9. So 9 pitches in a row are strikes. You'll get an 80% average. So that's 1 through 4. Now 5 and 6, kind of interesting. They just want to know what would be the least common denominator. In other words, what could you multiply that will wipe out all your denominators? So if I want to wipe out this first fraction, I need an x minus 2 so that those will cancel out. If I want to wipe out the second fraction, I need an x. If I want to wipe out the third fraction, I need an x, but I already had an x, so I can just leave that one there. That would be my lowest common denominator. I don't want to put another x over there because that's too many x's, so this would be the least common denominator. This one you want to multiply by x plus 5 to get rid of the first denominator. Second denominator, you need to multiply by x. The third one is another x, so you just leave it. You're done right there. Those are your least common denominators. And now here's how those come in handy. Because you want to use a least common denominator to help you solve an equation. Let's just put a box around that one so you know that answer. But that'll help you solve your equation. So if I'm looking at number 7 here, okay, number 7. Well, I'm going to kind of erase all of this stuff in here so you can kind of see what I'm doing here. Okay, so here's 7. You can't really see it. Okay, so now we can. Okay, so for number 7, we can, to get rid of that first denominator, we would need to multiply everything by 3. Whoops. I don't know why. Oh, there we go. We'd need to multiply everything by 3. Okay, to get rid of that first denominator. To get rid of the second denominator, we'd need to multiply everything by x. The third one doesn't have a denominator. So here the 3's would cancel, and all you would have is 4 times x, so that's the 4x right there. And then the second fraction, you get rid of the x's, but you still have 3 times 2, therefore you get the 6 right there. And then the last one, you're just going to multiply those two together and you get the 12x. So I want to keep my x positive. I'm going to subtract 4x on both sides and get 8x, because 12x minus 4x is 8x. And then bring down the 6. Dividing by 8 gives me 6/8, but if you reduce that fraction by 2, your answer will be 3/4. So your x is 3/4 for number 7. Number 8 was probably the easiest one on here, so let me go over it a little bit here for you, probably the quickest one. What are we going to multiply by to get rid of the fractions? That's what we want to know. Well, we're going to multiply by 2x for everything. You got to multiply by everything to keep it the same, to keep it equal. You got to multiply every fraction by it. So that's going to get rid of this 2x. That's going to get rid of this 2x. But I still need to get rid of that 4 there. So that means I could multiply everything by 4. Or, well, I mean, if that might make the most sense to you. That's going to change my equation over there a little bit. But I'll still get the same answer of 8. That's not the lowest common denominator, though. If I wanted to get the lowest common denominator, I already have 2 out of my 4 that I need. So I would just multiply by another 2 everywhere. So really my best lowest common denominator would be just 4x. If I multiplied everything by 4x, it would cancel out. So here's a 5 and a 2 that are left over. That's my 10. 2 times 2 is 4. That 4 cancels with that 4, but I still have an x. So there's my x right there. And then over here I have 9 and 2 that I have to multiply. That's my 18. So 4x would have been your best lowest common denominator. 8x would have worked, but your numbers would have been bigger, but you would have still got 8. So 8 was your solution there. Number 9 is way over here. So let me erase the stuff and show you what I would multiply by and what I would do to get rid of everything here. Okay, so what I need to do is get rid of each denominator. So I need to get rid of an x minus 3. That means I need to multiply all of my fractions by x minus 3. Because I can't just do one. I have to do all of them to keep it equal. So that's going to get rid of the first fraction. The second one doesn't have a fraction, just 3. The third one, I need to multiply everything by its x. So I need to multiply everything by x times x minus 3. That's going to get rid of the x minus 3's, but I'm still going to need to do x times x and x times negative 2. So that's where, if you look way over here, you can see I got my x times x is x squared, and my negative 2 times x is negative 2x. That's from the first term, this first x right here. X times x is x squared, because this x didn't cancel out. Only the x minus 3 canceled out. So the x times the x is x squared. X times negative 2 is negative 2x. Nothing cancels on the next one. So really, you've got a 3 times an x minus 3. And if you distribute those, you're going to end up with, and you can see it right here, 3 times x and then x minus 3. You're going to end up with 3x squared right here, and we're going to get negative 9x. 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. And you can see I brought down the x squared, and I brought down the negative 2x. Okay. The other side, the last one, you can see that the x's will cancel out. There's an x on the bottom and there's an x on the top, but you still have the x minus 3, so we're going to have to distribute. 2x times x is going to be the 2x squared, and 2x times negative 3 is the negative 6x. That's that one. And I can just bring those down. And now I can try to combine all of my like terms. My x squareds. So I got an x squared, a negative 2x squared, and a 3x squared. All of these 3 combined and gave me the negative 2x squared. And if I put together my x's, there's one, there's another, there's another. If I put all those together, I get negative 5x. So what I did is I took out a GCF of x. They both divided by x. So that would be my GCF. What would be left over would be 2x minus 5, because 1x cancels with 1x there. So you'd still have the 2x, and then these x's canceled, so you would just have the negative 5. And solving it gives me a 0, which I have to cancel out because one of my fractions has an x on the bottom, and I'm not allowed to have a 0 on the bottom, so I can't have 0. The other solution comes out correct, and that's 5 halves. 5 halves, 5 over 2. When you solve it, you add 5 to both sides, and you divide by 2, you get 5 over 2. That was 9. Number 10 is over here. I rewrote it so that we could just see it over here a little bit easier. So let me walk you through it. Okay, I'm going to get rid of all of this stuff up here so I can show you what cancels. Okay, that looks like the correct equation. 4 over x minus 5, 1 over x. Okay, good. All right, so what's going to get rid of our first fraction? Our first denominator is x minus 5. So we need to multiply everything by x minus 5 because that's going to get rid of the first denominator. So everything gets multiplied by x minus 5. It also gets rid of the third denominator. Now, it doesn't get rid of the second one. So to get rid of the second one, you need to multiply everything by x. And what that's going to do is get rid of the second denominator. But it does, the x stays on the other two. So here you have 4x. Okay, that's this 4x right there. Okay, so that's this 4x, in case you're wondering. Then you have the 1 times the x and the 1 times the negative 5. That's your 1x minus 5. And then you have x times x, which is x squared, and x times negative 1, which is negative x. Since it's quadratic, we have to get it equal to 0. So I combined 4x and 1x, it got 5x, and I subtracted it on both sides. So my minus 5x on both sides, and then I added 5 to both sides to get rid of the 5s. That left you with x squared, negative 6x, and positive 5 when you combine all of your like terms. And then you can see I factored it. The top number is always the last number. The bottom number is always your middle number. And then you see what would you multiply to get 5 and what would you add to get negative 6. So negative 5 and negative 1, if you multiply them, is positive 5, but if you add them, you get negative 6. So those are your two factors. So you're going to ask yourself, what's going to make it equal 0? Would be a 5 and a 1. You might notice I crossed out the 5 because our original problem has an x minus 5 on the bottom. And if you put a 5 in there, like right here, 5 minus 5 is 0, that does not work. You cannot have a 0 on the bottom of any fraction. So this answer right here is incorrect. The only right answer is 1. Cannot have a 0 on the bottom of a fraction. We are going to just do 11. We're going to skip 12. We'll do 13 is really fast. 13 I can do real quick for you right now. If they wanted to solve it, they would have to multiply all 3 by 2x. And the problem is they didn't multiply the last term by 2x. They only multiplied the first 2 by 2x. They forgot to do the last one. So that was their mistake. They didn't get the last one times 2x. All right, 11 is, oh, you didn't even see what I just did. I'm sorry, guys. There it is right there. So they multiplied all 3 of these by 2x is what we have to do, but they only did the first 2 times 2x. They didn't do the last one. They messed that up. All right, last one is 11. Okay, so I rewrote it down here so you can see the whole thing. And let me get rid of all of this stuff again so you can see me cancel things out. Okay, so it's 8 over x plus 3 8 over x plus 3, x plus 8 over x minus 4. Okay, that works. Okay. All right, let's actually, there we go, right there. Almost. Okay, so what I need to do is get rid of all of my denominators. So first I see that the first denominator is x, so I need to multiply everything by x. That's going to cancel out this first denominator. Second one doesn't have a denominator, so all I'm at is the third one, and it's x minus 4. So I need to multiply everything by x minus 4. Okay, so the x minus 4 cancels out this last x minus 4, but that still leaves me with some things to multiply. So here I've got a 3, an x, and the x minus 4. So I got to distribute. 3x times x is going to be 3x squared. 3x times 4 is going to be negative 12x. 3x times negative 4 is negative 12x. On this one, you are going to be distributing the x. So x times x is x squared, and x times 8 is 8x right there. And this first one, you got to distribute the 8. So you're going to get the 8x, and then 8 times negative 4 is negative 32. Now I'm looking to combine my like terms and get it equal to 0, because 0 is how you solve a quadratic. So I subtract x squared on both sides, right here and right here. Okay, and that's going to give me my 2x squared. I subtracted 8x on both sides, which when I combine it with this one over here, you're going to get negative 12x's. And then your negative 32 comes down over here. Now I noticed that all of those could be divided by 2. They're all even, so they have a GCF. So I'm going to take out the GCF, and I'm going to divide them all by 2, and I'm going to get 1x squared minus 6x minus 16. And that will factor. What two numbers multiply to give you negative 16 and add up to be a negative 6? Negative 16 goes on top. Your negative 6 goes on the bottom. And that would be a negative 8 and a positive 2 as your two factors. Those are the two factors that would multiply to give you negative 16 and add up to negative 6. So your two factors would be negative 8, x minus 8, x plus 2. We want to know what's going to make those equal 0. So negative 8, x minus 8, you're going to need a positive 8. X plus 2, you're going to need a negative 2. Check your problem. Make sure they don't make a 0 on the bottom, which they do not. So your answer is correct. Those two are your answers. All right, so good luck on that. Thank you for watching, and get all that down for your notes. If you look at 7-5, you do not have to do 10, 11, 14. The rest you can do on your puzzle. So good luck, stay focused, work hard.